of the building is the skeleton. It's very important. Let's start with it. The base of architecture is the skull. Let's view it. We will work with you in this part. Look where the lower line is. The blue part of the skull is the hardest bone, frontal bone. Here we are working because we have cavities. Look, there is deficiency of bone. When we pull a thread, of course, we can cave in and there won't be a straight line. Because of this, we are working in the hard part. Here, look. Start here. This is the first parallel line. And this is the second parallel line. We find it where the eyebrow is. We will look at a person later to find out how it's done. But the third line, look at the nuances of the third line. So, let's view this bone again. There is one plane of bone and another plane. Can you see? Furthermore, there are muscles which tell us where the third line is. Above this place, when we will lay the third line, we will have a serious fracture. It won't be pretty. So it's a sensitivity when people say, I sense where a line should be. No, there is an anatomically properly placed eyebrow, right here. The third line will be here. Let's look at what muscles are here. So look, we have one plane. Then we have another plane. There is a touch of two planes where the round muscle ends. We have a deficiency of bone and the red line is where it is. When we ask someone, surprise, be surprised, the upper muscle swoops up around the muscle here. We see this fracture. Look where it is placed. Of course, we usually ask surprise and we have it, but we have people who are surprised by this part of muscle. But that's a different story and I will show it on the person how it's being done. So, right now, let's study the face, its usual scheme of building. We must know it. So, the first line is line number 0. It's an axis of symmetry, line number 0. Then there are the parallel lines. The first one of them is here. This is its place. We are working in this place. Here, we start lining. Here, it's our first line. Next line, the second, is here. There is a short distance and it's easy to line them in parallel. The third line is here. It's right here. So, remember that it has its location due to muscles. But on scheme, on the paper, we should have understanding that this distance 1, 2, always will be bigger than distance 2, 3. Always. Here is distance 2, 3, and it will be shorter. It could be twice as short as distance 1, 2, or it can be 2/3. Anyway, this distance is shorter to the golden ratio. It should be slightly less than 1 and 2 are located, these squares. Now, how can we find the measurements of an eyebrow? That is how much we have for body and for tail. Of course, the tail is twice as short as the body of the eyebrow. The tail is twice as short as the body of the eyebrow. So the beginning of the eyebrow doesn't start from the lacrimal groove, but closer to the nose about 1 millimeter, because if we start from the lacrimal groove, the eyebrows will be far from each other. And this will create the effect of a not so clever man that is looking ridiculous. So that's why the beginning of the eyebrow is slightly near the lacrimal groove. Then the body of the eyebrow ends in the point surprise me. When a person is surprised well, we can easily see this point. We can see it on the person. But if the person is surprised using these muscles, so the eyebrow rises in front, but here it doesn't move, what we are doing, there is one moment. we need to ask the person to look straight. Usually, I ask, look at the tip of the nose. Thus, his pupils are placed in parallel with the axis of symmetry. They are parallel and the same. Then, visually, we bisect this white apple. Look, we have bisected it. Turn up. This point will be here. So, there is the body of an eyebrow. This distance we have metered. So from the sides of the nose, we stretch out a line. So look here, through the eye, like this, from this side, and we have found this line. And that is the perimeter of the eyebrow. And on one side, we measure the line with a ruler and we copy the distance to the other part so it looks symmetrical. It's how we find this distance. Now, let's see very important moments for building the ray. People make a lot of mistakes here. It's very important. The first ray we are building with 2 points. From one low point of the eyebrow to the point of surprise me, we are extending a ray. Here it is. This is the ray. There it is. Here, it's a part of a built eyebrow. The second ray we are building using 3 points. Look. Point 1, the bound of crossing is very important. And the third point, surprise me. That is the second ray by 3 points. Here it is. The part of the eyebrow has been built. Now, let's see where our tail is. The tail can be in different places. It can be on line 2. It can be lower than line 2 a little bit, but it must not be on line 1 or the eyebrow will be like this. It'll be hooked. So, do you see it? Like a rainbow where the start and the end is. It's not right. Any eyebrow is tilted just a little. So we have a beginning and tail, but the tail is a little bit higher than the beginning of the eyebrow. It's always beautiful. So the tail starts on the middle of line 1, 2, or on line 2, but it will be flown tail. We see it on the person and what they prefer more. So we join. Look, and we have absolutely symmetrically built eyebrows. Like this. Right, look how it is on the picture. Right now, let's analyze a very important place like the width of an eyebrow in the high point, which is called surprise me. Relatively, the second line when the third line is built, and in this place, we saw that all 3 are in parallel. We stretch it further so the third line is long. We rig it to line 2. We can extend this parallel to the third line. Then this line creates the same width here and there. We can visually let it down for 1 millimeter. When we have built in parallel lines, we let down here and here, and we can let it down closer to an eye, and we don't have any error. A schematically built eyebrow looks like this. There is another moment in how we can find a place for the tail on the picture. From the high point, we extend our line to the ear. Look carefully, please. The ear can be halved. And the high point of an ear is the place where our ray gets on the middle or on the middle of the middle. So it's the top part of the half of ear. Here, it's a prompt where the tail site is, but a better prompt is our muscles. When we raise a muscle, we will see it on the person. We see the line of the tail's direction. And now let's see what building our eyebrow has, how it is built. Look, we have the body of an eyebrow and the tail of an eyebrow. This is a triangle on the scheme, a rectangle, and a square. Most frequently, we give more place for the head and share it to a square, bigger a little bit. And now we need to find a way for building the head of the eyebrow. It cannot be square, or all people will flap about and will ask when we show, "Will I have such a square eyebrow?" No, you won't have such a square eyebrow. What should we do now? How can we build two identical heads? What do we need to do? We extend the line about 1 millimeter, like this line. Share it to 3 parts and connect. 1 and 1. Here it's a sedentary letter C. We don't have a locomotive, nor do we have a square beginning of the eyebrow. We'll have a sitting C, so like this. We have something like this correct, beautiful head, and the same we create on the second eyebrow. Then we have identical, beautiful eyebrows. Then, when we have built on the scheme, here it's a scheme with a rectangle, a square, and a triangle. But it's not beautiful. What are we doing? We are smoothing in the frame of the line. It's really, really important. Or if we smooth on the top of it, the eyebrow will look completely different. We are smoothing the top and the bottom. And naturally, we should do half round lines from straight lines, like that, point and point, and we draw a small half circle. So it looks like this, but not so much. We must draw a small half circle to make it more natural, this eyebrow. Here is our built eyebrow. For work, we are using simple calipers. They should be plastic but not metallic because we can hurt the skin. We are going to move them on skin, so normal plastic calipers. Then we need a cosmetic pencil. It must be quite soft. Also, some normal thread. Look, we take the calipers from the back side because we put them on the skin. We must draw on the back side. Draw one line by pencil, like this. And when we put it on the skin, look, we leave a line. Do you see how to do it? So, this pencil we use for thread. We take the thread, then put the thread against the pencil, and now our thread is ready for work. It's a very important moment. Our thread must be tight always. Always tight thread between our fingers because it's very important. Loose thread is not a ruler. Tight thread is a ruler. We can tie it around our fingers and pull. We must always have tight thread. Tight thread is a ruler. I said it was an important moment. The first line, or line number 0, is the axis of symmetry which we lay on the blue bone, on the hard bone. Look what we do. A lot of people make a mistake here. They apply the thread on the tip of the nose or higher. Do you see the distance? So we draw here, but where we really need it, we won't have a line. So we apply to a bridge and stretch the thread higher to see the line. Look what we do. It's the first line from 3 in parallel. It's the base of the eyebrow. How can we find it? We can put our little finger on the bridge. It's correct if anything is next to the little finger or higher. If it is lower, it can be a let down eyebrow. The second line we find due to the density of the eyebrow. Usually one is higher than the other, so we look for it between high and low. We don't look up to the highest or the lowest. We find the second parallel line between them and build it. It's on the short distance and we don't lay it further because here it's a deficiency of the bone and we fall into the eye. And the third line, our third line, it has a place too. This line must not be higher than the first second. So here it is. Then we are looking for a parameter of the eyebrow. The beginning of the eyebrow is a lacrimal groove. Look, we are a little bit closer to the bridge and we are drawing all lines on the forehead because then we are building a sketch. And if something is not suitable for us and we delete it all, settings will be on the top. It's simple to prolong them and don't look at them. Surprise, please. Look, it's a point, surprise me. 2 muscles meet here. Here is this point. We have found it. Thank you. And the third of our measurements is through the eye. Here is the place where the eyebrow will end. Now we have found all demarcations on one side. Do you see it? At first we have done one side. Now we copy it using calipers. Now, measure. Look, it was prepared for a work beforehand. So look, we do it easy. It's a measurement here. Do you see? Then measure. Now we are building a very important ray. It stretches from the bottom of one eyebrow to the top of the other. And find the high point of the other eyebrow. Here, it's one ray. Do you see it doesn't extend over the line? It's not above. It stretches only to the crossing between the perpendicular and the parallel line. The second ray we are building from the lowest point, look. I've put my finger on it. From the lowest point. I am looking for a crossing between these points. Here is this ray. Do you see? We have absolutely built eyebrows. Then we are looking for the tail. Have an ear. There is the correct direction of the tail in the top part of the ear. The lower we let down the tail, the more sad our eyebrow will be. We are working in this part. Look how we will check it. Look how it works. It's a moment how we do the direction of the tail. Here it is. Surprise, please. Look, our tail lied into mimic fracture. Cool. And copy the same with the second eyebrow. So the biggest part of building has been done. Now we need to find the width in the top point of the eyebrow. It's an important moment too. What are we doing? We are prolonging the second line. Parallel is simple for us because the third line is done. All lines are parallel in this part. Do you see it? But this distance for this person is very narrow, so I let it down roughly a little bit. Because we have parallel, I measure here. So, don't forget the key points. It's the first, The ray is going from one eyebrow to the top part of the other. We are building a ray using 2 points. The third ray we are building using 3 points. There is required crossing in the middle. This point is very important. It's here below. This is the upper point and required point is in the middle. It's a must. And now we have found the key points here and here. Here is the beginning of the eyebrow. Here. Top, point, and tail. Now we lay the client down because if they lie still, we can draw better. And connect and draw the ready sketch.